War has been a constant in human history, shaping nations and leaving devastation in its wake. While major conflicts like World War II, the Vietnam War, and the Napoleonic Wars are well known, there are countless other brutal wars that receive far less attention, despite their immense impact and staggering tolls on human life. In this video, we'll uncover some of the most brutal, but lesser-known wars, exploring their causes, the scale of violence, and the lasting scars they left on humanity. These are the wars that history has overlooked, but they deserve to be remembered. The first war we'll explore is the Congo Wars, often referred to as the African World War. This conflict is one of the deadliest since World War II, yet it remains largely unknown to many. The First Congo War began in 1996 and was initially a rebellion to overthrow the longtime dictator Mobutu Sese Seko, but it soon escalated into a much larger conflict involving multiple nations. The Second Congo War, which started in 1998, drew in 9 African countries and involved over 25 armed groups. This was not a simple civil war but a sprawling, multifaceted conflict that ravaged Central Africa. The brutality of the Congo Wars is staggering. Over 5.4 million people lost their lives, the majority of them from disease and starvation, rather than direct combat. It was a war fought on multiple fronts with local militias, rebel groups, and government forces all engaging in brutal tactics. Widespread atrocities included mass rapes, child soldier recruitment, ethnic cleansing, and large-scale massacres. The war's impact on civilians was catastrophic, with entire villages being wiped out, millions of people displaced, and eastern Congo left in a constant state of instability. Despite the sheer scale of the human suffering, the Congo Wars remain one of the least discussed conflicts of the modern era, with their causes and consequences rarely making global headlines. Another brutal, yet often overlooked, conflict is the Taiping Rebellion, which took place in China between 1850 and 1864. It's one of the deadliest wars in history, with an estimated 20 to 30 million deaths. That's a number almost unfathomable when compared to other conflicts in history. The Taiping Rebellion was a civil war fought between the ruling Qing dynasty and the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom, a religious movement led by Hong Xiuquan, who claimed to be the younger brother of Jesus Christ. Hong's radical vision for China involved creating a theocratic state that rejected traditional Confucian values, and his movement quickly gained widespread support among the peasantry. The war's brutality was shocking. Entire cities were destroyed as both sides fought with unparalleled intensity. The Taiping army, numbering in the hundreds of thousands, used siege tactics to take control of major cities, leading to mass executions of captured soldiers and civilians alike. In some of the worst sieges, tens of thousands of people were killed. The war's impact on China was profound, resulting in widespread famine, the displacement of millions, and the complete disruption of the economy. Despite its massive death toll and the devastation it caused, the Taiping Rebellion is often overshadowed by other conflicts in Chinese history, such as the Opium Wars and later the Chinese Civil War. Moving to South America, we find the War of the Triple Alliance 1864-1870, a conflict that devastated Paraguay. This war pitted Paraguay against an alliance of Argentina, Brazil, and Uruguay. It's one of the deadliest wars in South American history, with an estimated 400,000 deaths. But the human toll becomes even more shocking when you consider Paraguay's population before the war. The country's population dropped from about 525,000 to 221,000, meaning that nearly 60% of its population was killed, including almost 90% of its adult male population. The causes of the war were complex, involving territorial disputes and regional power dynamics. Paraguay's leader, Francisco Solano López, had ambitions to expand Paraguay's influence in the region, but these ambitions brought him into conflict with the much larger powers of Brazil and Argentina. The war quickly spiraled into a conflict of attrition, with Paraguay's military outnumbered and outgunned, resorting to desperate defensive measures. Civilians were conscripted into the army, including boys as young as 12, and the war became a national fight for survival. By the end of the conflict, Paraguay's economy and infrastructure were left in ruins, and the country took decades to recover. Despite the immense suffering it caused, the War of the Triple Alliance remains a relatively obscure event outside of South America, rarely mentioned in global discussions of historic conflicts. Another devastating conflict that doesn't receive the attention it deserves is the Korean War 1950-1953. While it's often referred to as the Forgotten War due to being overshadowed by World War II and the Vietnam War, the brutality of this conflict should not be underestimated. The Korean War resulted in over 3 million deaths, with millions more wounded or displaced. The war was fought between North Korea, backed by China and the Soviet Union, and South Korea, supported by the United States and United Nations forces. The divide between the North and South continues to shape global geopolitics today. The fighting was intense, with both sides committing atrocities. The North Korean forces were known for their brutal treatment of prisoners of war and civilians, while South Korean forces were involved in massacres of suspected communist sympathizers. The bombing campaigns launched by the United States flattened entire cities, leaving the Korean peninsula in ruins by the end of the war. The use of napalm by U.S. forces, a chemical weapon that caused horrific burns and destruction, further exacerbated the suffering of civilians. Despite the war ending in a stalemate, with the division of Korea remaining to this day, the impact of the conflict still reverberates in the ongoing tensions between North and South Korea, as well as the broader strategic dynamics of the region. Turning to Europe, the 30 Years' War 1618-1648 is another example of a brutal conflict that doesn't get the attention it deserves. This war, fought primarily in what is now Germany, involved most of the major European powers of the time and resulted in the deaths of an estimated 8 million people. The war began as a conflict between Catholic and Protestant states within the Holy Roman Empire, but it soon expanded into a broader struggle for political and territorial control. The war's brutality was unparalleled for its time. Entire towns and villages were wiped out as mercenary armies roamed the countryside, looting and pillaging as they went. The civilian population suffered tremendously, with disease and famine killing millions in addition to the direct violence of the conflict. In some regions, up to 50% of the population perished, creating a demographic disaster that took generations to recover from. The Treaty of Westphalia, which ended the war, established principles of national sovereignty that continue to influence international relations today, but the human cost of the 30 Years' War is often overlooked in favor of discussions about its political and diplomatic legacy. These wars, though lesser known, are grim reminders of the brutality that has shaped the world throughout history. From the Congo Wars to the 30 Years' War, these conflicts have left lasting scars on nations and people. In the next video, we'll continue exploring more brutal wars that history tends to overlook. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss part 2, where we dive into more of these harrowing yet significant conflicts. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.